Hi, my name is Keith Cooper of Northlight Images. This is an update on some testing I've been doing, looking at adapted Canon Tilt-Shift lenses, 24mm, 17mm, on the Fuji GFX100S. Obviously applies to other medium format cameras as well with that size sensor. Recently I looked at adjusting an adapter and found that actually I improved the image quality of the 17mm an awful lot by just shimming the adapter. And I got a video about that. It looks into the details. But anyway, 17. I've got this adapter here, works fine on it. That one needed a little bit more adjustment, so it could be an issue with the lens, than the 24mm here. Now remember, with the larger medium format sensor, that's 33 by 44, so it's small medium format, not large film size medium format. With that, you do get an awful lot more coverage, and therein lies some of the problems you're going to get with adapted lenses. Now, some adapted lenses, and I'm going to be coming back to adapted lenses because I've been looking at various different types of adapters, particularly some old M43 ones, screw thread lenses. Some of those lenses work an absolute treat on the medium format stuff here. Remember, 24mm is 24mm, irrespective of what sensor you have it on. It just changes the coverage. Now, the examples I've got here, I've got a couple of shots here. I went out, didn't do as much testing as I like because it started spitting a rain, and I've never been a photographer who appreciates getting wet, so you won't find me hiking across the mountains in storms and the likes like that. It just ain't ever going to happen. Never has, never will do. So we've got 17mm here. Now I've left this one here, which has got a distinct bit of flare and veiling on one side, and that's because the 17mm has a protruding front element, and if the sun catches that, you will get that sort of effect on it. It's something I've been used to dealing with. I've had this lens for years, so I'm used to using it. The lenses, incidentally, work absolutely fine on my R5 with a normal EF to RF adapter. So this is looking at the differences you get when you start putting them on a larger sensor. And amongst the things you notice are that with the 17, and all I've done is shifted it to its maximum, which is 12mm upwards. I haven't looked in the corners and all the stuff like that. At full shift, 12mm on that sensor, we do start to see a bit of vignetting. You're touching the edge of the image circle. Reminds me of when I tested the Laowa 17mm recently. The Laowa 17mm shift lens on medium format, they recommend no more than 8mm of shift. That does 12 as well. If you go to 12, you can see the corners, the problems there. So it's broadly similar there. What I have noticed here with the 17 is that the 17, you get more geometric distortions in those corners when you shift out towards the edge of the image circle. Now it's worth noting that you don't see these if you use it on a 35mm sensor, because that's just cropping a 36 by 24mm area out of the larger 33 by 44 on this. So the problems that I see on this lens adapted, and remember this is a 17mm adapted, so it's equivalent to about a 14mm shift lens in terms of angle of view, on a 35mm full frame sensor. Because of this, I see some distortions. I also see the image quality fall off quite noticeably on the 17. I've used the 17 for years on my work. In fact, this particular picture here, the Sea of Steps picture, after F.H. Evans' version of it, this one here was taken with this actual lens using a Canon 1DS Mark III, and there are no real problems on it. I can see a little bit of softness in the far corners of it, but that's what I would expect with a lens like this. If you push it and put it on this sort of sensor, you start getting issues towards the corners. Now they can be cleaned up to some extent, and I'll show a bit of that in a moment, but in general this lens performs well if you limit the amount of shift to perhaps 10 millimeters. If you limit it to 10 millimeters of shift rather than the full 12, and this is on the medium format sensor, if you limit it to that, you get usable pictures. Now, you may need to do a bit of sharpening in the corners, and I've got some examples here taken from this. Incidentally, I just enlarged this one up here. I've used Photo AI from Topaz. If you use one of the smart sharpening examples, you can see in this example here, this is at f8 in the top corner of the image, and the example before and after sharpening. Now, it's a little dark as well because it's off in the corner. You can correct things like that, but we're pushing this a bit beyond what it would normally be used for, so I get a good result with it. If I actually just look in the central area, it's lovely and sharp. In fact, applying this sharpening and this smart sharpening, it slightly over sharpens the image perhaps in the good areas of the image. So I've looked at this before when I was looking at sharpening tools like this. I would approach an image like this in Photoshop. I would produce a sharpened layer, and then I would use a masking so that that sharpening was only applied to the areas that really needed it. That means you can turn the sharpening up a little bit in the corners and not worry about it over sharpening the center of the image. Now, this is using Photo AI from Topaz. Unfortunately, the very best tool I had for this, Sharpen AI, a Topaz plugin, used to work absolutely superb. Unfortunately, Topaz have moved the goalposts really on this one, which mean that you now have to have one of their bells and whistles systems to even get the basic sharpening here. And the sharpening was exceedingly good. So yeah, I'm in two minds about recommending this. It works. I use it. This is an old version. Unfortunately, if I want to use the original Sharpen AI, although I've got a working version of it, I have to run that on an old system because it won't run on the modern versions of Photoshop and a modern Mac. Always be careful about updating things. It will break stuff. I do not like updating things on a work machine unless I know it's going to be worthwhile doing it and I've worked out beforehand what's going to break. So I've got a system. I do stuff on a laptop, various other things as well. But anyway, that is the 17mm and it looks good. If I change it, go up from, that was at f8, at f11, the corners are indeed a little bit sharper. But you do at f11, you start to see signs in the center of the lens. Certainly if with better lenses, you will see a little bit of softening from diffraction. Now, once again, that gets cleaned up quite nicely. If I look here on an image, it's fine. I've applied very little sharpening here. That's still a little bit more sharpening than I might necessarily want. Of course, if this is being done for a print, all of this is somewhat different because you have to think about sharpening differently if you're going to be making prints. So when I sharpened the image for making this particular one here, I've applied different amounts of sharpening in different areas because that was also a bit noisy as well. But anyway, that's with that. If I look now at the 24mm, instantly I see geometrically it's a lot better. This was not absolutely perfectly lined up, I'm afraid. It was spitting a rain and I wanted to get the pictures done before it started raining for proper. I don't like getting kit like this wet. Yes, it can take some dampness, but I still don't like it. And as I mentioned, I don't like getting wet myself. So two examples here. These were taken at f8, if I remember, or it could be f11. You do, with the adapters here, you do get the EXIF data telling you what it was. But the reason I've got the two here is that on one of these adapters, one of these pictures, you see there's a bit of flare in the corner. Where's that come from? Well, it turns out on this adapter, as I say, both of these adapters I've shimmed. On this adapter, there is now a tiny little gap. And it turned out that the sun was hitting that gap, and that is a light leak. Now, somebody asked me about it and I didn't think it was going to be a problem. Not a problem on this adapter because of the design of it, but on this one, this is the photodiodes adapter, and this is the better adapter that I've got. It is possible if the sun hits at a glancing angle, it will bounce around off bits of metal. What am I going to do about it? I'm probably going to look at putting some thin black tape around it, just to mask it slightly. It's a very small amount of light needed. Direct sun shining almost into at this angle. It's why I've got the flare in the other one, because the 17mm picture, because the sun was just coming in just enough to bounce around off that. So it's not a problem. The one that's okay, all I did was just do that when I took the picture, and that's enough for it. So it's not a big problem, but yeah, it's something to consider when doing this. Depends on what sort of shots you do. You can get a very slight light leak after doing the shimming here. Fixable. I wouldn't have noticed it unless I'd tried this. So that's with that. Now, if I look at the detail in the 24, the 24 detail, it does need some sharpening in the corners, but it doesn't need a lot. The 24 on this sensor is an awful lot better than the 17. The 17 at full 12mm shift. Do the 17 at only say 8-9mm shift, and it's very wide angle, so you may not need a huge amount of shift. Do it with that and the 17 will work just fine. I know also this is a TS-E50. This one works really well on this adapter here. I really like using this one. Yep, like all of these lenses, there is potentially a little tiny bit of vignetting at strong shift, but on the 50mm, I like using the 50, which gives an equivalent of, what is it, 42, 43mm focal length. I set this to a square crop, and it gives a really quite nice perspective and angle, field of view. Always remember, perspective is set by where you are, not by the lens. But anyway, that's that one. Now, if I just get rid of these, just go back to these actual pictures again, ignore the flare, ignore anything else. The 24 is much better. Now the 24 gives me the equivalent of the old 17 on my 5DS and on the R5. So that is a lens I'd likely use because I've got the Fuji 30mm TS Tilt-Shift lens. That's what I would use for that. But when I look at this, we've got the vignetting. We've got it's a complex distortion on the TS-E17. So on the large sensor at a lot of shift, we get like a moustache style. So there's a slight bit of barrel, then it goes, yeah. So it's a complex distortion and a tricky one to fix. Depends, of course, what's in the image. If it's just sky and clouds, ain't going to make much difference. But if you've got detail of brickwork like I have here, you will see that problem. And there's another thing about it. If you're just taking landscape pictures where you haven't got strong detail in these top corners here, you may find a lens like this perfectly good to use for it. For architecture, I just have to be a bit careful with it. But as I say, this is very wide and I wouldn't normally use it. Now, I know people are going to ask about any other issues, comparisons with the Laowa, because I wasn't able to test this at the time when I had the Laowa. I was ill earlier on in the year and wasn't able to get out very much. So in looking at this one here, there is a bit of what I call shift vignetting in the opposite corners to where the shift is, and that is mount vignetting, and that comes purely from physical vignetting when the lens is shifted. And that is a potential issue as well. I get the expected vignetting in the top corner, but I get a tiny little bit of vignetting in the opposite corner. There's virtually none on the 24. You can just about see it, but it is noticeable on the 17. How would I compare the 17, the Laowa 17, and the adapted 17 here? I'm going to say the Laowa has better distortion characteristics over the area of the lens. It's a much newer lens design. Remember, this one I've had since I think 2007, 2008. Canon haven't got round to bringing out any new tilt-shift lenses recently at all. So these are about the 15-90-135 are the newest. This one is way overdue for an update. Having now done some testing on this, I can see that the Laowa on medium format will give you better geometry and sharper in the corners, the far corners, if you push it. Now, have them both at, say, plus or minus 8mm of shift, as is recommended on the Laowa, and the differences are much less. I found the Laowa, you know, a nice sharp lens, good enough to use with this. Will I be getting one? No, because I'll only use this in extremes. I don't need this width very often. Yeah, and I've got a perfectly good lens. This one also works very well on my R5. What about the TT-Artisan lens I looked at? So, well, that's very limited on medium format in that you've only got up and down shift, or rise and fall as it's called sometimes, which does limit things. The shift is limited as well. But in terms of image quality, if those movements limitations on the TT-Artisan lens are not a problem, and you only ever want up-down shift, you don't want, yeah, see, it is limiting. If you only want that, if I knew I was going to do a shot of a building that needed about, say, 7-8mm of vertical shift and this really wide angle here, I'd use the TT-Artisan one. Of course, there are lots of other irritations about it. This is superbly built, it's engineered, the movements are smooth. You can use the gearing to actually just slowly adjust the movements here. On the TT-Artisan and the Laowa ones, the movements are a bit all or nothing. There's a lack of subtlety in the movements, and I could see that, but causing problems, but I've mentioned that elsewhere. So there you have it, a quick sort of update on testing of things. So the gist of it is that TS-E24 on this adapter, once I fix that potential light leak, because you don't want to have to try and fix it in post afterwards just because you've forgotten about it. Once I fixed that, this one is now cleared completely for using on this. If I need this field of view of 24mm on the full frame sensor with shift, that gets used. If I need even wider, yeah, this one will occasionally get used, because now I'm happy after doing the adjustment of the mount. I'm happy with it, and I think, yep, that one works well. But it has issues, and I need to remember those issues when I'm taking shots, because unless it's a very important picture, I don't want to have to be doing work in Photoshop with multiple layers and masking and things like that. Because incidentally, automatic corrections, forget it, not for any of these whatsoever. These are fully manual. Any corrections you make have to be done manually as well. If you're interested more about tilt-shift lenses, I'm obliged to mention this. I've written a book about how to use tilt-shift lenses. It's available electronically as well, but I much prefer a proper paper book with pictures in it. Oh yes, of course, I've just realised that there is a picture in the book which is this one, the same view from here, but the trees are much smaller in this one, and it's a different angle. But anyway, there you go, that's the book. I will be coming back to this, and I'll also be coming back to looking at adapters, because I've got some interesting ones to try. This is an old Russian lens, and this is a screw fit to Fuji G adapter. I've got some Olympus lenses, some other screw fit lenses. I just want to have a bit of a play with stuff and that, and just go out and take some photos again. Not been taking many photos this year. Combination of weather, being poorly early on in the year, and you just get a bit out of practice of it. So there we go. I just want to just go out and do some interesting things, but without getting wet. Anyway, if you've got any questions, please do let me know, and so I'll be coming back to this, and I've got lots of other stuff, written articles as well as videos that I've done about this stuff. So thanks for watching. Questions, welcome. Bye.